Okay, so JCSE, or Joburg Centre for Software Engineering, is a centre at Wits University. And I like to think of centres as being part of the university, but we stand a bit on the edge. So if you look at a university, it's got its formal faculties and research groups, and then it creates centres that lets it do things that are a bit outside of what a university does. So JCSE is really there to support the local digital economy and companies and entities in it. And we do that through skills development, through thought leadership, through connecting some of the dots and promoting the industry as an industry, both locally and abroad. So that's really what we're about. We sit inside WITS, but we do many things that extends beyond our student base and our university's footprint. So JCSE at Wits University got started. It was launched by me in 2005. And in 2000, there was this very interesting moment in South Africa's IT industry, because Price Waterhouse in the late 1990s did a study on an industrial policy for the IT sector. It was called the SITES, South African IT Industrial Strategy. And it was a big activity involving many stakeholders in the private and public sector, looking to position the South African IT sector at a time when the Indian IT sector was just growing, where there was nothing else happening in Africa in the IT space. And what Price Waterhouse came up with in this CITES report were a few key things. So it said that we are a great industry, very creative, but we need to be bigger. So we have to grow the industry. In growing it, we had to look at transformation. It was far too white, male, and getting older. It looked a bit like me now. And it was looking at ways we could make the industry bigger and transform. So that was the one thing. The second thing was really around best practice. So at that time, the whole world of software and IT outsourcing was taking off, and a lot of work was moving from the US and Europe to places like India. And what the CITES report said is that South Africa could participate in this outsourcing bubble that was growing, but we had to be world class. We had to be measurable and benchmarked against the best in the world. So the two things that the JCSE looked at when we started was, one, to bring in these benchmarks to help to quality assure our IT industry, and secondly, to look at skills and best practice and how we could grow the size of the industry and make it of suitable quality. So that's, and we worked with the city of Johannesburg at the time through their economic development office, and we put forward a strategy that WITS would play a part in this in responding to these proposals put forward by Price Waterhouse. And we launched the Joburg, and hence the Joburg, because it was partly City of Johannesburg. So we launched the Joburg Centre for Software Engineering. That was 16 years ago, and a lot's happened in the digital space in that time. In 2012, I started to create a digital innovation hub in Braamfontein that is now called the Tsimologong precinct. Tsimologong means a place of new beginnings. and I found some old buildings in Braamfontein that belonged to Wits University. And we raised money and we renovated the buildings. One was an old nightclub, and we turned it into what is a very big and very successful innovation hub in Jutta Street in Braamfontein, just near Wits. And that's the Tsimologong precinct. That was actually spun off in 2017 as a separate company owned by Wits University. So that's now run by a separate management team. And then JCSE rethought our strategy and rethought our priorities, because we were then in the midst of this, and I call it hype, but in this whole talk around 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution, and my focus turned from focusing on the software development, software engineering sector, more into digital transformation. How do businesses, especially small businesses, survive in the digital age? And the only way they're going to survive is if they embrace digital and transform themselves. So it involves skills, it involves technology, and it involves a change in mindset in how businesses work in the digital space. And that's become the focus of the JCSE at the moment. So I think that, and it's interesting that you say that, because for you and me, and I think a lot of citizens in their private space, they're digitally transformed. You know, people kind of might be working as a gardener, but will have a phone, maybe a smartphone, will be sending WhatsApp and sending pictures to friends and family and transferring money and doing things in a very digitally comfortable way. But there's this mind block that business has. So if you look at business, especially small businesses, and you say digitally transformed, they'll go squint-eyed and look at you and say, wow, that's going to be difficult. We better get a consultant. We better spend gazillions of rand on this digital technology, because there's this mindset that digital transformation comes with two big things. You need super duper skills to be able to cope with it, and you need to invest in expensive technology. And I think that what COVID has done is it forced a lot of businesses to go digital almost overnight. And what they did is they didn't rush off to consultants and spend a whack of money on new hardware and software and fancy stuff. They used what was available. They used the connectivity we have through our cell phones or whatever else we could get onto. They used the platforms like Teams and Zoom and Skype, which were there already. They used existing collaboration software and tools, and we went digital. And I think that the two big fears around digital transformation, one is skills. People say, well, we're not skilled enough. You know, I'm a 60-year-old and I know nothing about digital, so I can't do this. I'll just keep my business as an old analog business. Or the technology, and they see it as coming with a huge price tag and lots of risk associated with it. And neither of those things are true. They both are very easy to do. So I think that we've broken two of the big barriers to digital transformation, especially for small businesses. Big businesses, it's another story, and we could speak about that. But small businesses, it's a skills thing, and it's been this technology spend, the risk and the cost of technology. So I think if you look back, and we've been hearing so much in recent years about this fourth industrial revolution. And it's like we weren't moving along in the digital space until Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland said, we in the fourth industrial revolution, and then everyone took notice, and government appointed a commission, and every company has a 4R strategy. But yes, there are big things happening in the digital space, but there's always been big things happening in the digital space. Mobile was a huge change in how we lived digitally when we went mobile. Mobile networks and cell phones. The digital camera and the smartphone and things like that. Huge innovation, huge change in everything. And we took it in our stride. So I think digital implies change, and it implies rapid change, and it implies ongoing transformation. We're always moving ahead, and and people keep up with the wave in their personal life, not in their business life. So I think that when we kind of say that kind of what prepared us, we were always prepared. We would have at any moment we could have stepped up and we could have done what we've done in this past year, maybe less effectively and less efficiently. But there were always. I can kind of remember Mixit, which was before WhatsApp, and it ran on a feature phone. And if we had to lock down, then we would have used Mixit to collaborate and communicate and do what we do. So I think that it came at a moment. There was a lot of tools and technology waiting in the wings. And as you say, it was the stuff between our ears that held us back, and the fear of kind of not being able to think about this digital world. When there was no choice, if carrying on studying or carrying on learning at school or carrying on working in your profession required you to sit at home and work through a tool like Zoom, well, you did it, and you learned very quickly how to do it, and people still struggle to unmute themselves, but so be it. We still definitely, we can easily embrace the technology. So the key thing is that that we've kind of broken the fear factor. I think if you take away the fear factor, the next thing that needs to happen is to say, what are the problems? What isn't working well for me? So, I'm using Teams and Zoom, and I'm using this, that, and the other on my computer. I've got a fiber connection. I'm lucky enough to do that. But, what's not working for me? And in running a business, the business has to say, we are running, we've got going, we're working remotely, we're using this digital platform to do it. But what isn't working for us? Where are the gaps? And in identifying a problem, you open up the space for innovation. So really, innovation should be problem-driven. So we should be saying, what would we like that we don't have that would help us do our business better? And then go out and look for ways. There could be a solution out there that you don't know about. So you're innovating in your usage of existing technology, which is still innovation. Or you can say, well, there's nothing out there that I need that would help me do that. And then you should find ways to either innovate yourself or work with others to innovate a solution. So we've seen, it's been fascinating to me to see professions like the law profession and the medical profession. And if we had been speaking to the typical general practitioner or the typical legal practitioner in 2019 and we said, run your business digitally, they would have laughed at you. They would have said, well, it's just ain't going to happen. But now they're doing it. So I consult with my doctor online, and it works well, you know. But there are certain things that aren't working that well. There's certain things that could be done better. So he could be saying, well, I need to I need your vitals. I need to check your blood pressure and those things. It's hard to do on a Zoom call. The question is, what could I plug into my USB port that I could then wrap around my arm and my doctor could check my blood pressure? Yes, there are things like that, but my doctor isn't using them. So yeah, he can now start innovating and get an examination kit that he can send off to patients, and you can plug yourself in and he can examine you. So there's an innovation for that that professional practice. But I kind of dare say that any small business could look at what's not working well for their business in this digital world. And we are moving into a hybrid world, I guess, as hopefully more and more people get vaccinated and the pandemic goes away. I think we'll never go back to where we were. We'll go back to another state. And that's going to be a hybrid state. So I think that small and medium enterprises have to say how they're going to operate in a hybrid state. How they're going to have some of their business online, some of their business face-to-face, and how can they innovate? So I think that's what's going to come up in the coming years. So there are pros and cons. I think it comes with huge challenges and huge downsides, and also comes with huge upsides. So if you take a person like my doctor, okay, he's not an SMME, but he works in that space. So he provides a service. If he were to go completely online, he could be treating people in Cape Town or in Montreal for all we care. He suddenly is a global business. So the one thing digital does is it breaks down physical barriers, or it can break down physical barriers. So that's the huge opportunity. The little SMME who kind of sells gift cards can kind of now move beyond the sort of the like boundary of the shopping center that they're sitting in, and they can sell gift cards anywhere in the world if they have a competitive and a compelling offering. So the kind of opportunity is it's opened up new markets. The downside is they're now competing with every other every other entity selling gift cards in the world. So they have to be damn good to get my attention, even though they're across the road from me. So I think that's the downside, is it's a much more competitive world. So it calls on small businesses to go back to the basics and say, what is it that they're offering that makes them special, that makes them unique? And I think when we get back into that hybrid world, they'll have to leverage their proximity, but combine it with the convenience of digital. So they'll have to say, well, kind of we competitive because we are on your doorstep, which gives us an advantage. But we are just as good and just as convenient and just as customer friendly as any other online entity could be. And I think that's where the competition will sit going forward. Yeah. Okay, so I think the first thing is that technology is not what they should be thinking about. They should be thinking about the kind of services and the offerings they give, and those are underpinned by technology. And as they say, there are many ways to skin a cat. You can do things in many ways. So you would want to kind of use the right technology to kind of solve your problem. But the risks come in terms of all the normal things. So if you are wanting to do e-commerce, so your business case now is you're going to sell online. There are many ways to sell online, but there are risky ways and there are non-risky ways. So if you rush off to some expensive software development house to develop you a customized online platform to kind of sell online, it costs you more. You're beholden to the developer to keep you up to date. So kind of mitigate your risks and say it's not about me having my very own software platform to sell online. It's more I need a platform, and that platform has to be cheap, reliable, maintainable, and all those things that one would want. And then you choose the right fit for your need. If you can't find something that you can use on the cloud or something you buy in, then you kind of develop it yourself. So we kind of used to have this proliferation of everyone developing their own system to do things. And with the cloud and with the world we see now, you can mitigate those risks around software development. You don't need anymore to have on-site hardware. You can choose to do it, but you don't need to. You can use cloud services that are there. You can scale them up in size. So those are the risk would be to be locked into proprietary, to bespoke kind of non-transferable things that you now have to maintain and look after. I think though that in linking into such platforms, you're also bringing in the risks of who owns your data, who sees your data privacy, things being hacked, things being stolen. You're opening up, that the safest way to store your to store data is to write it in a book and lock it away in a drawer. But you can do that and no one will ever see it. But it won't help you work in the digital world. So we have to trade off between this kind of need to be secure and private and safe, but still benefit from being out there and in the marketplace of the digital. I don't know if that makes sense. The key thing is that I think that the biggest challenge facing South Africa at the moment is employment, is to have people in jobs and have people earning, and that there's been several international studies which shows that jobs don't come from large corporates. So if we're going to create the millions of jobs that our economy need, it won't come from the large corporates creating more and more jobs. They sort of churn numbers. They lose some, they gain some, but they stay kind of the same size. Where growth in employment will come is from the SMME sector. So we need to grow our SMME sector to create more employment and to improve our economy. So I think that I'm a strong champion of the SMME sector. I think that there are two categories, there are probably more, but I'll talk about two categories of SMMEs. There are those that do standard stuff, and there are lots and lots and lots of that of those. So these are small businesses that do things that have always been done, and I think that we must protect those, but not be kind of dinosaurs. We must move them forward in terms of technology, and I think that we're seeing that happening. So I've been very encouraged in the last year to see, yes, a few small businesses have gone to the wall and haven't succeeded, but I've seen a lot of small businesses do really well in this digital space and in this new reality. So, kind of that's been encouraging. I think what we need to do more of is we need to create innovative new businesses. So we need to move into new areas where we haven't been before, and we need new businesses coming out. And I think that South Africa, and that's innovative entrepreneurship. And I think South Africans are very good at that. We are an innovative society. And I think if we can get the right elements in place to encourage and promote and support these innovative entrepreneurs, we could be growing new businesses. I've seen, and there have been quite a few up here in Gauteng, but I've seen some very exciting new businesses popping up in the Western Cape using digital technology in very exciting ways. And, I think we could be doing more of that. There's no shortage in South Africa and Africa of problems. And many of those are soluble using digital technology. And we should be developing those technologies and spinning them off in startups, in new businesses. And I think that would create a new cluster of these SMMEs that would kind of really be an important thing. And I've seen encouraging signs, but there is a lot of work to do in getting that right. Yeah. And I think, kind of just a word to those innovators listening. I've kind of played a part in some of these hackathons and challenges and dragons dens kind of thing. And what always disappoints me is that people come forward and they are putting a new spin on an old idea. So it's a new takeoff on Uber or something that's kind of a solved problem, and they just give it a bit of a local twist. And I would really encourage them to think out the box, to kind of look at a problem and not just pattern match and say, well, that's a problem that looks like we can solve with a rip-off of Uber, but this is a problem we can solve by doing something absolutely different and radical, and to let their creativity flow. Because I think that's where we can make a huge impact. So I think people have to be courageous to be a bit out to be a bit out there in terms of thinking of innovative solutions, and then make it happen. It's not an easy journey, but it's a very worthwhile journey to get a business going, get it off the ground, and people must really kind of take those risks and put in the hard hours, because that does work and things happen. So I think my first word of advice to SMMEs is be courageous and go digital. I think don't wait. Don't sit there thinking, well, you'll wait till something comes along or some better opportunity. I think that we can't doubt at this point, no one can doubt that the world is moving rapidly into a more digital reality, and that's going to happen. And I think that those individuals and those businesses that don't embrace this and don't keep up with it, at least, and preferably get ahead of it in terms of really see what's coming in the future, will not succeed, will cease to exist. And this isn't only SMMEs, this is large organizations as well and large companies. I think in 10 years, if you look at the major companies in South Africa today, I'm not sure how many of them will be around in 10 years' time. And especially those that have been slow at embracing digital. So the first word of advice generally is digital transformation. Transform yourself digitally and embrace digital. I think the second thing is that to call on them, call on everyone to be agile. To really be prepared to change quickly. It was kind of amazing in March, the beginning of March last year. If you had asked anyone in terms of their long-term plans, it would have been more of the same. If you had said to anyone, where will your business be in a year's time? What will your skills needs be in a year's time? Within a few weeks, they could have thrown away all those plans. I mean, it really, and we should be prepared to do things on the fly. Of course, you've got to plan and strategize, but be prepared to change, to move with change, because it's those businesses that are agile, that are ready for change, that will succeed and will do well, and will do very well. And it's those that sort of resist change and sort of kind of need proof and need 3 quotes in triplicate that'll really go to the wall in this thing. You can't be static. You've got to be agile. Yeah, I mean, I think that it occurred to me in waves. At first, like everyone, I was just sort of desperately treading water just to keep my nose above the sort of raising tide. And I didn't really think very deeply about what was happening. It was sort of day to day. I think that there've been a few moments when I've realized exactly what's happened. And I'll just sort of talk about one of them. So I teach part of a course to a class of people in Nairobi every 2 or 3 years. So it's a course for telecommunications regulators. And we taught the course a few years ago with a colleague of mine from WITS. And I teach one morning session in this longer course. And it involved me the previous time in 2018, I think it was, flying to Nairobi, being in a hotel for 4 or 5 nights, sort of dealing with long distance travel, all the cost and all the inconvenience and the excitement that it comes with. But it was really a big mission to go off and teach this course. I taught it a few weeks ago, and I literally sat where I'm sitting now. I clicked on 1 or 2 buttons, and I was in front of the class. I taught the class. It was a very rewarding experience both ways, very interactive. 2 hours later or 3 hours later, we ended the class, and I then clicked into another meeting. So what had cost a fortune, had taken a lot of time, had put a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and now was a few clicks on a button and it was done just as well. So I think that and I felt so proud to be part of the digital world where that was possible. Because if you think of how that, just that, the cutting out this needless air travel and this needless waste of time and energy and consuming resources that this technology has done away with. I think anyone in the digital world can feel proud of having made that contribution. So I think there have been moments I've felt really happy and proud. There have been other moments um, I'm kind of really worried about the future in many ways. I've been thinking a lot about the concept of jobs, and I spoke before about jobs and how we need to create employment. And it's kind of not a job. It's about giving people a stake in the economy. So how do people people earn an income that they can now be role players in the economy? And the concept of a job previously was that you will be employed by an employer. Your contract kind of links to a certain amount of time that you sit in the premises of that employer, and you do certain activities, and you get paid at the end of the month for doing that. So the job was really linked to you putting your bum on a seat in that employer's work area, and that's what a job was. The way jobs could happen and are beginning to happen now is it's more a set of tasks. So if you're a software developer or if you are a graphic designer, it's kind of unlikely that a company, and if you're working from home, it's unlikely that a company is going to give you the same sort of contract to say, I'm paying you to work for me exclusively for the next 5 years, and I'll pay you every month, and I'll send work your way. What will happen is that the companies will pay you for your work. So they'll say, here's a task that I need you to do. Here's a program to write. Here's a sort of graphic element that I want you to design, and we'll pay you this number of hours of work, and we're getting into the gig economy in the real sense of the word, where people will put their skills on a platform. People wanting to use those skills will go to the other side of the platform, and it's a marketplace where you match those with skills and those with needs. And the kind of only example of the gig economy we've really seen is the likes of Uber. And we sort of know all the controversy around that, because what are Uber drivers? They are kind of selling slices of their time to Uber, but they've got no protection in their employment, no pension rights, no anything. They are just paid for that work. So the gig economy kind of strips away all the benefits that working people have fought for centuries to that link to having a job. And now people are just competing on a platform for bits and pieces of work. And I mean, and it's, again, like everything, there are pros and cons. If you're good at what you do, you can keep yourself super busy working for people all over the world. If you don't have a skill that's that marketable, you could find yourself being horribly exploited and working hard and not making much of a living, and or making no living. So I think that's what kind of worries me. I think that we can all sort of rejoice in this wonderful thing that we now work from home. But what does that actually mean? So the sort of major corporates in South Africa, some of them are looking at closing their corporate big corporate office blocks and letting people work from home. And is that the first step to saying, well, we don't need to employ these people working from home. We'll just give them work when we need it. So that is a huge worry. Yeah. And you take something like maternity leave and those sorts of things. So, if you can't work, if you're sick or ill or pregnant, or you've got a young child, then you can't work, and then what happens to you? So I think those sort of workers' rights that have been fought for through decades, through centuries, could easily fall away in this new world of work. And there's a large amount of unknown. So there's a lot that nobody knows in terms of where we're heading and what the world's going to look like in the future. In terms of JCSE, we sit inside Wits University, and we are the kind of point of contact for people who want to engage with Wits. So anyone who wants to engage with anything digital through Wits could obviously go and look around Wits and find it, but the quick way is to come to us, come to me, and I'll help make the connection. So we kind of trying to see ourselves as an interface into Wits University, which does amazing things in all sorts of disciplines. So I think a digital transformation, Wits, come and speak to me, and I can try and make those connections. So that's the one thing. And then I'm not sure when this will be broadcast, but we are running we currently running a survey of ICT skills, and we're trying to collect as much kind of raw data about skills as possible. And anyone who wants to put their information, there's a corporate survey and there's a practitioner survey, and people can complete those. We're doing it in partnership with the IITPSA, which is the Institute of IT Professionals of South Africa. So it's an institute of all the professionals, and it would be good for people to fill in the survey. And to find out more, they can go to our website, which is jcse.org.za, and there's a link, there's a form you can also fill in there if you want to contact me, and I'll get in touch with you.